Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Savage Traveling, coming to you from, well, not Vietnam right now, but we're talking about Vietnam today and renting or buying a motorbike on your adventure backpacking trip from either Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi or vice versa, or anywhere in between, because there's a million ways to motorbike Vietnam if you're willing to, spend the money and look around a little. But what I'm mainly here to talk about today is why I choose to rent instead of buy a bike on my upcoming trip. This will be my second trip to Vietnam to ride motorbike. The first trip I started in Hanoi. I rented a motorbike from Tigit Motorbikes.com. And well, they have a physical location there in Hanoi, Da Nang, and Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi, and Da Nang, and maybe one or two others right now. After doing a lot of research online and watching many YouTube videos of people having a horrible time on motorbikes that they rented or that they bought in the backpacker streets of Ho Chi Minh or Hanoi, or on Facebook or Craigslist or wherever. And there are these, a lot of them, I'm not gonna generalize and say everybody, but a lot of the bikes you see are junk and are composed of Chinese parts, even if they started out as a Honda bike or a Suzuki or a Yamaha or whatever. They've been worked on over the years because, motorbiking from north to south is a big business there within the last decade or so. So these bikes get used and abused, rode hard, put away wet, and then they slap Chinese parts on them, and that's what you're riding across the country. And after watching many YouTube videos of people having horrible times, breakdowns, having to change your oil every a couple hundred kilometers, and then I run across the Tigit Motorbikes guy YouTube channel, and I started watching his stuff, and he made a very good, compelling argument to rent from him. And I did go that route. It'd be 4 years ago now, and I rented a Honda 150cc 6-speed, a Honda Winter 150cc 6-speed, and I went with that over a Honda Wave, which a Honda Wave is a 110cc that you can rent from Tigit for $200 and some a month. The 150cc Honda Winter cost me $300 for the month, plus a damage waiver, and I think I bought a helmet, well, both times, And so it ended up being about $400 for the month, which is pricey when it's, you're spending that money out and you have no chance to recoup it in the end, like if you bought a motorbike in Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh, and when you were done, you could, sell it to another traveler online or in person or whatever, and that's a big thing. But it just didn't sound very appealing to me because, first off, I didn't want to have to go find one to buy. Second off, I didn't want to have any problems going across the country, any more problems than you should have. And, buying a backpacker bike off the street, you could have problems. 98 out of 100 times, you're probably going to have something go wrong. I only say this because of the videos I've watched, and when I was on my last trip, I met an American guy in Da Nang, and he had, his buddy, or the guy he was traveling with, let's say, he had bought a Honda Winter D-Tac, brand new from a shop for, it was close to $1,000, I think. I don't know exactly, but it was up there. And he still had to return it, and he got his money back, but it was an actual, D-Tac Honda, I believe. And this other guy, this other American cat that was with him, I was traveling with him, was on some junk Yamaha or whatever he bought out of the backpacker streets. And I don't think he had made it much past Da Nang where I met them before the guy had to find a new bike, and then he eventually stopped traveling with the guy that bought the Honda D-Tac, and it just didn't work out for him. And that was one real life experience I saw, once I was on the trip, and I had already watched 12 dozen YouTube videos about people having horrible times on these bikes they bought in the backpacker streets. And I had enough cash to rent one and not feel bad about getting the money back, because I really didn't want to have to deal with trying to sell the bike whenever I decided to end the trip. And I liked Tigit's multiple locations because I made it to Da Nang. It took me 21 days to get to Da Nang. It should not take you that long to get there, but every little Vietnamese homestay or guest house, if you get a private room, a lot of times there's a mini bar, just a mini fridge stocked full of local Vietnamese beers, sodas, snacks, whatever, and it's all extremely cheap. And I took advantage of that way too often, and I was having lunch beers and yada yada, and I'd just stay 4 or 5 days at every city. And before you know it, I made it to Da Nang, and it was 21 days, and I was done. I didn't want to ride to Hanoi. The weather, I was there in December, and the weather in the north was junk, and I just, after 21 days, I was over it. You know, I was just done. So luckily, Tigit, they had a, you know, a shop in Da Nang that, you know, I called him, you know, the guy you see on the YouTube videos, emailed him or called him or whatever, but I was dealing directly with him. And I just turned my bike back in at Da Nang. I don't think I got my deposit back, or something happened where I was penalized for not bringing it back to the place that I had slated I was going to return it to. But I didn't care at that point. And that was really nice, not having to, you know, like saying, you know, in the same instance, if you had bought a motorbike from the backpacker streets, you could just leave it wherever you wanted, I guess. If you're out the money, you're out the money. So I never really thought about it like that, but I guess you could look at it like that. But you know, I wanted a reliable motorbike that had been serviced, that was newer, that I could get on in Ho Chi Minh. I didn't have to change the oil to Da Nang, and then if I would have rode on to Hanoi, you know, I'd have had to change the oil again. But you know, I didn't have to do it at any kind of frequency like some of the, you know, the backpacker bikes, the Honda Winds, the cheap Chinese junk you do see out on the street there for sale. And overall, here's my second time. I'm getting ready to go again in a couple weeks. This is the whole point of this video, and I rented from the same guy again. I went right back to Tigit. I rented the same, you know, a Honda Winter 150cc 6-speed again. It's, you know, you could get a Honda Wave for cheaper for like 2 or 3, I think 200 plus whatever extras you wanted. It's just, they're so small. Like, it isn't that the Honda Wave is much smaller than the Honda Winter, it's just how they set. You set up differently in the Honda Winter, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. But, you know, I don't know where this was all going, but maybe someday in the future, if I'm feeling adventurous, I'll buy one out of the backpacker streets and I'll ride it, you know what I mean, and document that. But as I only get to do this once every, you know, I'm lucky to go back a second time to do it. Like, the first time was amazing to actually have to be able to get it done. To go back a second is just, you know, I'm grateful. So I wanted to make it as smooth as possible. You know what I'm saying? I get to do this once. Why am I going to take, you know, more chances than I need to? And I'll, you know, when I'm be spending about the same money anyways, you know, in the end, unless you went to sell. But, you know, by the time you sold, you may have many repairs. You may have been stuck on the side of the road in the dark. You may have had to like get a local to truck you into town. There's a million things could go wrong, well, on any motorbike, but there's more of a chance on a random motorbike out of a backpacker street that's been put together with Chinese parts. And if you don't know about motorbikes and what you're looking for when you go to buy one, you're not going to know. You know, you're not going to know what to listen for. You're not going to know what to look for. So, I mean, especially if you have no experience in the motorbike world and you're not so keen to have like a side of the road adventure, just rent one. And I mean, Tigit's not the only place renting motorbikes that does the drop off in different cities. There's a slew of companies. I just went with Tigit because his videos on YouTube worked. You know, I was sold. So anyways, guys, that's my little spiel about renting or buying a motorbike while you're in Vietnam. I prefer to rent right now. Maybe if I was like 20 years old, I'd be in a little more adventurous spirit, or if I had a group of guys or people to go with that were, you know, rode hard and knew what they were doing out, you know, in a situation, I'd be all about it. But by myself, I'm trying to enjoy my trip. No reason not to rent one, because like, it's a serviced, newer bike. There's just no question about it. You know, you're not going to have an issue right away unless you cause one, and you know, more often than not. But anyways, guys, that's Zach with Savage Traveling. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and well, I'll see you in Vietnam. Peace.